Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Mineral Resources Minister Susan Shabangu assured delegates at the South African Coal Exports Conference this week that the declaration of coal as a strategic resource wouldn't halt private participation and exports. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
Now, why does the South African government want coal declared a strategic mineral, and what benefits will this have for the industry?
Well, the industry shivers and shakes at the word strategic because it means the government can stop exports, and exports are the jam on the bread. We've had a tradition here of a twin-track business plan. The idea is that the bad coal goes to Eskom, the good coal is exported. The bad coal earns bread and butter, and the good coal that is exported earns the jam. And that's changing because Eskom used to be the only dustbin sort of recipient of this coal that was low grade. Now countries like India and China say, no, we want that low grade coal. Now that changes the whole paradigm because Eskom is being used to paying very moderate prices. And then the companies didn't mind that because that gave them a basic income, and they would then export and earn very good returns on that. All of a sudden, there's a competition element creeping in for the low-grade coal. And this is causing a lot of concern. And the Minister of Mineral Resources, Susan Shabangu, said she felt like a trapeze artist because she has to swing from one side to the other and try and create a balance because she doesn't want to lose this fantastic revenue that you get from coal. Coal had more revenue than any other metal or mineral in the mining space. In 2011, it brought in something like 88 billion rand. So she doesn't want to interfere with that because there are marvelous incomes for the government. But at the same time, she needs to make sure that Eskom has enough coal to keep our lights on. Otherwise, we'll be complaining. So what they've done is they've said, in principle, from Mangaung to government, they've all said, look, this has got to be a strategic resource because we are really dependent on it for 90% of our electricity, 70% of our petrol and diesel and chemicals through Sasol. And it's a primary energy source that we've really got to look after. We do want to benefit from the exports, but we don't want to have no electricity. So you're going to have to create a balancing act here. And that's why they are looking at this as a strategic resource now that needs to be carefully nurtured. At the same time, they want to use it for black economic empowerment. In fact, beyond black economic empowerment, they want a new set of miners to come in. At the moment, the big four supply Eskom with 80% of that coal, and it's quite efficient. A lot of it, comes directly out of the mine on a conveyor belt straight to the power station, which is the way to do it. But if you then spawn a whole lot of smaller players, that efficiency goes out the window. How you retain it is going to be difficult because if you've got people not supplying those big volumes and getting it there by truck, it's a totally different efficiency level. It's very low efficiency, and probably you're going to pay more for it. So Eskom has also got to watch out, but they want to take that risk and try and create transformation and energy coal supply at the same time through a lot of new players to fill a gap which they see coming up in 2018. They feel there'll be shorter supplies. A lot of people say they're going to have a shortage before then, particularly at this coal conference. They were saying a lot of the contracts that Eskom has got start ending in 2015. So you can see the urgency around this. You can see the panic on the faces of people who are responsible for getting coal supplies. And at the same time, there is this big geological survey which indicates where coal is. And I think Eskom wants to use that in conjunction with the government to start exploration in the areas where the state-owned geoscience will tell them, look, there's coal in these areas. And then they also link up with the state-owned Transnet to say, look, we need the rail coming in there. We don't want these to go on truck to try and make it more efficient from the start. But it's a big ask at a close to critical time. And I think that's why Eskom has also gone out and had a pact with the big players. They definitely need a big supply to satisfy their huge appetite. This is a hungry dragon, Eskom, hungry for coal.
And now if India and China want the same low-grade coal, the price could increase, and then that creates issues too.
Big issues, because the coal miners will say, hey guys, we could be making great revenue out of this. And the government will be saying, I wish we could have the revenue, but I certainly need the electricity to run the country. So we've got to have this balance. And it could have negative implications if they still don't have a sweetener in the form of export of the normal, 6,000 calorie coal, whatever they designate it as. You don't want to create disincentives. And there was a little bit of panic at the coal conference. The word strategic did worry a lot of people. But I think that they can have a win-win out of it. And also, when you look at Eskom, they have strategically got themselves an export allocation at Richards Bay Coal Terminal for about 3 million tonnes a year. And if the smaller players come in and they can be part of that Eskom allocation, it'll mean they'll have, again, this business plan with two parts to it. The less revenue coming from, less revenue but big volume going to Eskom, a big revenue but small volume going out to the various demand to meet global demand. And this global demand is still strong for coal, and it's going to be. Although, the corridors of the conference down in Cape Town were ringing to the tune that China is not going to, buy as much. There's still going to be there's going to be leads and lags, because China is looking at massive hydropower now. Huge. As much as we produce in coal, they're looking to do with hydropower, which is clean. Also, they're
especially
looking
for China.
Yeah, and they're also looking for nuclear power, also on a huge scale. So there's going to be a time when the acute demand for this coal may be declining, but not between now and 2018, 2019, and these are going to be critical months for South Africa.
Now, the minister has promised that government won't make any unilateral decisions, that she will include the industry in this. How does she propose to do that?
Well, I think talking. She wants to. She's complained that she was a victim of unilateralism, with Anglo-American Platinum deciding to close 2 mines, suspend 4 shafts, sell Union Mine and retrench 14,000 people. She felt that she was a victim of unilateralism and said, we're supposed to talk to each other. Why didn't we? And she then declared at the coal conference that the errant Anglo-American, which is South Africa's biggest coal producer, by the way, so also very important to Eskom, biggest energy coal producer, had now come back into line. And
like a naughty child.
Like a naughty child, they were back in line. So she's hoping that when she weaves this coal as a strategic resource into the legislative framework, the MPRDA, they call it, the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act, when she weaves it in, by that stage she will have gone through a process of public consultation, which will result in as close as you can get to a win-win situation. So that's what she's looking to do.
Now, other strategic minerals have also been declared, have been singled out besides coal. What are some of these, and why those particularly?
Yeah, I think they're spoiling their case by exaggeration here. Coal is the one. Not even uranium, which was declared a strategic resource a long time ago because they thought they were going to use a lot more of it with nuclear. Coal, that's where the pressure is. So, to start bringing in chrome as they're doing, and vanadium and manganese and limestone, because we make a lot of cement and phosphates. I think they're spoiling their case a bit with exaggeration. There's not the same pressure on those commodities as there is on coal at the moment. I mean, with so much hanging on coal, so, South Africa's whole economy really is clinging to that. I think we can de-emphasize these others at the moment and stick with, making sure that the way we handle the strategic declaration does not harm the economy of South Africa and does not stop people exporting, because we can see that this has been very lucrative. Richards Bay Coal Terminal now talking about the 6th growth phase. People say, "Oh, you're crazy." I mean, the Transnet is hoping to get 77 million tons out of there this year, which will be up on last year's 68 million. But in 2005 they were doing 69 million. So even now at 91 million tons, they are way ahead of the curve. But Richards Bay say if there are a lot of new small juniors, black-owned juniors coming through, they want to have more capacity. But if they go to this 6th phase with 110 million tons a year, that'll be the end of it. They can't go beyond that. And then in future, that will have to be on a new site if you want to create more capacity. But you've got this tension because the Richards Bay Coal Terminal is owned by the private sector, and you can see it's ahead of the curve. The rail, which leads to the Richards Bay Coal Terminal and all the wagons, are state-owned. And now that's a story. That's a story in itself, where the state has not been able to keep up. And at South Africa's expense, we have lost. They've sabotaged our income, our potential income. The state falling asleep at the wheel. They're catching up. And now, Richards Bay Coal Terminal is making sure that they are talking to be ahead of the curve again. So it's going to be interesting to one day. You hope that there will be a match between the capacities, because you don't want stranded infrastructure. You want it fully used.
Well, thank you very much, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Shannon.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time for more news and insight into what's happening in the mining world.